December 16th, 1944. 5:15 in the morning. The Ardennes forest in Belgium. There is no music here. Only the wind through frozen pine trees. Only the idle rumble of a diesel engine waiting to wake the dead. Captain Marcus Hartwell sits alone in the turret of an M36 Jackson tank destroyer. He is 27 years old, but his eyes belong to someone much older. Someone who has seen too much. Someone who remembers too well. In his shaking hands, he holds a photograph, black and white, creased at the corners. 4 men smiling in front of an M10 Wolverine somewhere in Tunisia. Spring of 1943, when the world still made sense. When they still believed the doctrine. When they thought they might all come home. On the back of the photo, written in fading ink, 703rd TD Battalion, Tunisia, March 43. Mac whispers to the photograph, to the ghosts. I promised I would bring you all home. Around him, the crew sleeps. Bull Morrison, 36 years old, graying at the temples, breathing shallow through the pain in his infected arm. Eddie Chen, 23, Chinese-American face scarred by shrapnel from Anzio, no longer the joking kid who sang songs on the landing craft. Rita Kozlowski, 26, disguised as a male soldier. Loader who can sling 90mm rounds faster than any man in the battalion. The radio crackles. Static, then a voice tight with fear. All stations, this is Overwatch. Enemy armor columns breaking through Losheim Gap. Repeat, enemy breakthrough at Losheim. Multiple panzer divisions. Request immediate. The transmission cuts off. Artillery fire blooms orange against the black sky 2 miles east. The ground shakes. Shell casings rattle against the turret floor. Mac closes his eyes, his voice barely audible over the distant thunder. They told us tank destroyers would win the war. Fast, deadly, invisible. They were wrong about everything except the deadly part. An explosion erupts 100 yards from their position, dirt and snow fountain into the air. The crew jerks awake. Bull reaches for his gun. Eddie scrambles into the driver's seat. Rita loads around without being told. Mac's voice cuts through the chaos. Contact! Start the engine! Tommy Novak, 19 years old, the kid from Nebraska who replaced their original driver, spins in his seat. Which way, Captain? Which way do we go? Mac looks at the map. He looks at the old photograph. He looks at his crew. These men and women who have followed him through hell. We go forward, like we always do. The engine roars to life. The M36 Jackson lurches toward the sound of the guns, toward the last great battle of the war, toward the twin villages where Mac Hartwell will finally understand what it means to survive. The title appears through the smoke and the snow and the fire. The Last Tank Killer. Act 1, Part A, The Butcher's Son. 3 years earlier, November 1941, before Pearl Harbor, before America knew it was already at war. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Steel Mill District on the Monongahela River. Lieutenant Marcus Hartwell walks home on leave from Fort Sill, Oklahoma. He wears his dress uniform, artillery branch insignia polished bright. 24 years old, lean and serious, good with mathematics, bad with people. The kind of officer who calculates firing solutions in his head while other men talk about girls. He walks through the skeleton of his father's old steel mill, closed since '39. Rusted cranes reach toward gray November sky like the bones of extinct animals. Windows broken, gates chained. A sign that says Hartwell and Sons Steel Manufacturing hangs crooked on one remaining hinge. Mac stops, touches the gate. His father built tanks with these hands. Armor plate for the Renault FT in the First War. Came home with lungs full of foundry smoke and a Bronze Star he never talked about. Worked himself to death in this mill, trying to keep it alive through the Depression. Failed, died anyway. 47 years old. Heart attack on the factory floor while Mac was at artillery school. 2 years gone and Mac still cannot forgive him for dying before they could talk. Before Mac could ask the questions that matter. Did you hate the war? Were you afraid? Did you kill anyone? Does it ever stop mattering? Downtown Pittsburgh, the movie theater marquee advertises newsreels from Europe. Mac pays 15 cents and sits in the dark theater watching German panzer divisions crush Poland. The footage is grainy, black and white, but the message is clear. Tanks, hundreds of them, thousands, moving faster than anything in the last war. Stukas screaming overhead. Infantry divisions encircled and destroyed before they can dig in. The man next to Mac mutters to his wife, "Thank God we ain't in that mess." Mac says nothing. He has already seen the mobilization orders. He knows what is coming. That night at home, his mother makes dinner. Sarah Hartwell, 48 years old, widow, works the day shift at the Allegheny Arsenal making ammunition. Her hands are calloused. Her eyes are tired. She sets the table with the good plates, the ones from before the mill closed. She slides an envelope across the table. Official Army stationery. Mac's name typed on the front. Came yesterday, didn't want to open it. Mac tears it open, reads, rereads. His coffee goes cold. I've been transferred. Artillery to something called Tank Destroyer Command. Camp Hood, Texas. Report December 1st. Sarah refills his coffee. Her voice is steady, but Mac hears the tremor underneath. Your father built tanks with his hands. You'll stop them with your brain. Mom, I'm artillery. We don't fight tanks. That's somebody else's job. I don't even know what a tank destroyer is. Sarah sits across from him. Between them on the wall hangs a photograph of Jack Hartwell in his doughboy uniform. 1918, 26 years old. Before the Bronze Star, before the factory, before the lung disease that killed him. You don't get to choose safety in war, Marcus. Your father didn't. His father didn't. The Hartwells show up when the country calls. That's who we are. Mac looks at the transfer orders, looks at his father's photograph, feels the weight of ghosts pressing down on his shoulders. What if I fail? Sarah reaches across the table, takes his hand. Then you fail like a Hartwell, standing up. Act 1, Part B, Camp Hood, The Forging. December 1941. Camp Hood, Texas. 150 miles southwest of Dallas. 200,000 acres of scrub land and rattlesnakes and heat that makes Pennsylvania seem like the Arctic. Max steps off the train into 105-degree sunshine. His wool uniform darkens with sweat before he reaches the gate. The welcome sign is brand new, painted olive drab, Tank Destroyer School, Seek, Strike, Destroy. He reports to the headquarters building. Inside, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Bruce is giving a speech to a room full of confused artillery and cavalry officers who, like Mac, have been transferred into a branch that did not exist 6 months ago. Bruce is 48 years old, thin and intense, wire-rimmed glasses, voice like a revival preacher. He paces in front of a chalkboard covered in diagrams of German panzer tactics. Gentlemen, the Nazis have perfected a new kind of warfare. Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Their panzers punch through defensive lines, encircle entire armies, destroy supply lines before we can react. France had more tanks than Germany. France lost in 6 weeks. Why? Because the French fought the last war. We will not make that mistake. Bruce taps the chalkboard, hard. Tank destroyers are not tanks. Tanks attack. We defend. Tanks slug it out at close range. We ambush from concealment. Tanks have heavy armor. We have speed, mobility, and the biggest gun we can mount on a chassis. Our doctrine is simple. Seek the enemy, strike from surprise, destroy and withdraw. Fast in, fast out. The panzer is the enemy's sword. You are his death. A captain in the back raises his hand. Sir, what if we can't withdraw? What if we're surrounded? Bruce smiles. It is not a comforting smile. Then you die killing as many as you can. Next question. After the briefing, Mac is assigned to a crew. 4 men, including himself. They meet in the motor pool next to their vehicle, if you can call it that. An M3 gun motor carriage. A half-track with a 75mm gun bolted to the back. Open top. No turret. Armor plating so thin you can see daylight through the bullet holes in the test models. The first man Mac meets is Sergeant William Morrison. Everyone calls him Bull. 36 years old, 6'2", 220 pounds of muscle earned from 10 years in the West Virginia coal mines. Hands like shovels, face like a cliff. He is loading ammunition when Mac walks up. Sergeant Morrison, I'm your new TC. Bull looks Mac up and down, nods once. You ever been in a fight, sir? No. You ever kill anybody? No. Bull goes back to loading shells. You will. The driver is Private Edward Chen, 22 years old, Chinese-American, San Francisco, Chinatown. Learned to drive in his uncle's laundry delivery truck. Fast reflexes, quick smile, optimism that seems insane given the circumstances. Eddie Chen, sir. Born and raised in California. Been driving since I was 12. I can make this thing dance. Mac shakes his hand. Chen, Chinese? Eddie's smile does not quite reach his eyes. That's right, sir. Not Japanese, in case anybody was wondering. Already got called a Jap twice today. By Americans, fighting for the same flag. The loader is Corporal James Walsh. Everyone calls him Doc. 23 years old, pre-med student at University of Chicago, dropped out the day after Pearl Harbor, volunteered for the draft. His older brother died on the USS Arizona. Doc read about it in the newspaper and walked straight to the recruiting office. Doc is quiet, bookish. He keeps a journal, writes in it every night. Mac will later learn that every entry ends with the same line: "Is this justice or just revenge?" Doc shakes Mac's hand. His grip is soft. Medical student hands, not soldier hands, not yet. "Corporal Walsh, sir, I'll keep you loaded and alive if you keep us from dying stupid." Mac looks at his crew. Bull, who has seen men die underground and knows fear intimately. Eddie, fighting for a country that does not fully accept him. Doc, trying to make sense of why his brother burned alive for a naval base in Hawaii. And himself, Marcus Hartwell, artillery lieutenant who would rather calculate trajectories from a safe position 5 miles behind the front, who is terrified that he will fail these men the way his father failed to survive. They spend the next 3 weeks training. Camp Hood in December is only 90 degrees. They run 10 miles every morning in full gear. They practice gunnery until Bull can hit a moving target at 1,000 yards. They learn how to use bazookas and satchel charges in case their gun motor carriage is destroyed and they have to fight on foot. They memorize German tank silhouettes: Panzer III, Panzer IV, Tiger, Panther, every weak point, every vulnerable angle. Lieutenant Colonel Bruce comes by one afternoon to observe firing practice. Bull puts 5 rounds through a target tank hull at 1,200 yards. Bruce nods approval. "Good shooting, Sergeant. But remember, you only get one chance. The panzers will see your muzzle flash. You shoot, you scoot. Stay still, and you die." Mac raises his hand. "Sir, if we're faster than panzers, why do we need such a big gun?" Bruce turns to look at him, the stare of a man who has thought about this question every day for a year. "Because, Lieutenant, you will only get one shot. It has to count." That night, Mac writes a letter home to his mother. He does not send it. "Dear Mom, I think this might be a suicide mission. The vehicle is a coffin on wheels. The Doctrine assumes we'll see the enemy first. But what if we don't? What if they ambush us? What if the gun jams? What if we're slower than they say? I'm scared, not of dying, of getting these men killed because I'm not good enough. Love, Mac." He burns the letter, writes another one. Cheerful lies. "Everything is fine. The crew is great. We'll win the war by Christmas." 2 weeks before Christmas, 1941, comes Pearl Harbor. The radio announcement interrupts dinner. Mac and his crew listen in the mess hall. The room goes silent. Someone drops a tray. Doc Walsh stands up and walks out. Mac finds him behind the barracks throwing up into the dirt. "My brother, Arizona, he's dead." Mac puts a hand on Doc's shoulder, feels him shaking. "We'll make them pay for it." Doc looks up, eyes red. "Will we? Or will we just die trying?" Mac cannot answer that. Training intensifies. They work 18-hour days. The M3 gun motor carriage breaks down constantly. The engine overheats. The transmission grinds. The 75mm gun has no recoil system, so every shot slams the entire vehicle backward. The armor, such as it is, can be penetrated by a .30 caliber machine gun at 500 yards. Bull touches the armor plate one day, pulls out his pocket knife, scratches it. The knife leaves a groove. "Captain, this ain't armor. This is foil." Eddie leans out of the driver's seat. "At least we can run away fast." Doc is calculating on the piece of paper. He looks up, face pale. A .30 cal penetrates this from 500 yards. We're riding a death trap. Mac studies the vehicle, studies his crew, studies the doctrine that says they will somehow defeat German panzers by being fast and sneaky and expendable. Then we don't get hit. Simple as that. We see them first. We shoot first. We leave before they know we're there. Bull snorts. "And if we don't, then we die, but we die taking as many of them as we can." The silence stretches. Mac realizes he sounds like Lieutenant Colonel Bruce. He is not sure if that is good or bad. In February 1942, a new officer arrives at Camp Hood, Captain Victor Shaw, 32 years old, regular Army, tank commander, M4 Sherman Company. Shaw is everything Mac is not: confident, loud, popular, good at poker, better with women. He treats the Tank Destroyer School like a joke. Mac first meets Arthur Shaw in the officers' club. Shaw is holding court at the bar, surrounded by other tankers, telling a story about a training exercise where his Shermans wiped out an entire TD battalion in mock combat. "And then these TD boys tried to flank us." "Tried? We saw them coming a mile away. Bagged 6 of them before they even got in range. Tell me again why we're wasting resources on this TD nonsense. Mac is nursing a beer in the corner, reading an after-action report from North Africa. He sets down the report. Because your Sherman has a 75mm gun that can't penetrate a Panzer IV from the front. Our 3-inch gun can. The bar goes quiet. Shaw turns, looks Mac up and down. And who the hell are you? Lieutenant Marcus Hartwell, Tank Destroyer. Shaw laughs. His friends laugh. The bartender looks uncomfortable. Tank Destroyer. Right, you artillery boys playing tanker. That's cute. When the real war comes, call us. We'll save your asses. Mac stands, walks to the bar, looks Shaw in the eye. When the real war comes, Captain, you'll be dead before you see them. We won't. Because we're trained to survive, not to brawl. Shaw steps closer. You calling me stupid, Lieutenant? I'm calling your tactics outdated, sir. The tension crackles. Bull Morrison appears at Mac's elbow. 6'2" of coal miner muscle. Shaw's smile disappears, then returns, forced. We'll see, Hartwell. We'll see who's still standing when the smoke clears. Mac turns and walks out. Bull follows. Outside in the Texas heat, Bull strikes a match. You just made an enemy, Captain. I made a point. There is a difference. Bull exhales smoke. Not in war there ain't. Spring 1942. The M10 Wolverine enters production. Actual turret, actual armor, 3-inch gun mounted on an M4 Sherman chassis. The 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion is officially activated. Mac is promoted to captain and given command of a platoon. 3 M10s, 12 men. They train with the new vehicles through summer. The M10 is better in every way. Faster, better armored. The gun can penetrate anything the Germans have in North Africa. The turret rotates, which means they can engage targets in any direction without repositioning the entire vehicle. But it is still open-topped. No protection from above. Artillery, grenades, snipers. Any of them can drop death straight into the crew compartment. Bull stands in the turret looking up at empty sky. Still a coffin, Captain, just a nicer one. Eddie checks the engine. Diesel instead of gasoline, loud as a freight train. They'll hear us coming from a mile away. Doc loads practice rounds. The 3-inch shells are heavy, 60 pounds. He can manage 4 rounds a minute if he hurries. 6 if he does not care about accuracy. This is better, but it's still not a tank. Mac climbs into the commander's position, surveys the crew, his responsibility. It doesn't have to be a tank. It has to be enough, and it will be, because we'll make it enough. They train through the summer. North Africa heats up. Rommel pushes the British back to El Alamein. The newspapers scream about the Desert Fox, about invincible German armor, about the Africa Corps that has never lost. In November 1942, the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion receives orders. Operation Torch, invasion of North Africa. Landing at Oran, Algeria. Objective, stop Rommel, stop the panzers, stop the blitzkrieg that has conquered half of Europe. The night before they ship out, Mac visits his crew. They are cleaning weapons, writing letters, not talking about tomorrow. He sits on the fender of their M10. Bull joins him. They smoke in silence. Bull finally speaks. You think we'll make it? Mac considers lying, decides against it. I think some of us will. Bull nods. That is enough honesty between men going to war. If I don't make it, Captain, write my wife. Tell her it was quick, even if it wasn't. Mac promises. Bull stands, pats the M10's hull. Good night, Captain. See you on the other side. Mac remains with the Tank Destroyer. This machine that is too light to be a tank, too heavy to be a scout car. This compromise weapon born from desperation and doctrine, written by men who have never bled. He thinks about his father, about Jack Hartwell, who built tanks but never fired one in anger, about the Bronze Star that came with no story, about dying in a factory before the next war could claim him. Mac whispers to the darkness, I'll try to come home, Dad, but if I don't, I'll die like you taught me. Standing up. The M10 sits silent, waiting for blood. Act 1, Part C, Baptism by Fire. February 1943. Kasserine Pass, Tunisia, North Africa. The 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion has been in theater for 3 months. They landed at Oran in November, drove 1,000 miles across desert so hot the engine oil boiled. The M3 gun motor carriages broke down every 50 miles. They fixed them and kept moving. By February, they are spread thin along the Allied front, not concentrated in battalions as doctrine demands. Parceled out in companies, sometimes in platoons, attached to infantry divisions that do not understand tank destroyers and do not particularly want them. Mac's platoon, 3 M10 Wolverines, is attached to the 168th Infantry Regiment. They are dug in on the Kasserine Valley floor, mountains on 3 sides. One road in, one road out. Intelligence says the Germans in this sector are light units, mostly Italians. Nothing to worry about. Mac studies the terrain. The valley is a natural kill zone, perfect for an armored counterattack. He tells the infantry commander they should reposition to the high ground. The infantry commander, a colonel who has been in North Africa for 6 months, tells Mac to keep his opinions to himself. You're here to kill tanks, Lieutenant, not play general. Captain, sir, I made captain. The colonel does not care. February 13th, night. Mac is writing a letter to his mother by flashlight inside the M10 turret. Bull is polishing the 3-inch gun for the 3rd time today. Eddie is asleep in the driver's seat, snoring. Doc is reading a letter from his girlfriend, Mary. She is pregnant. She does not know yet if Doc knows. He wrote back 2 weeks ago, but the mail is slow. Doc folds the letter carefully, puts it in his pocket over his heart. Mac, if something happens to me, make sure Mary gets my letters, all of them. She needs to know I was thinking about her. Nothing's going to happen to you, Doc. Doc smiles, but the worry remains. Something happens to all of us eventually. At 04:30 on February 14th, the world explodes. Artillery falls like rain. German 105mm guns, 6 batteries firing together. The ground heaves. The M10 rocks on its suspension. Mac's ears ring. He cannot hear himself shouting. Mount up! Start the engine! Bull, get on the gun! Eddie cranks the diesel. It turns over reluctantly. Bull traverses the turret. Doc loads an armor-piercing round. Mac keys the radio, gets only static and screaming. All stations, this is Reaper 6. Enemy contact. Enemy contact. Multiple tanks. Mark position. The transmission cuts off. Through the pre-dawn darkness, Mac sees muzzle flashes in the valley to the east. Orange blooms against black sky. The tracer rounds look like fireworks. Pretty until you remember each one is trying to kill you. Bull has his binoculars up, scanning. Jesus Christ. Mac takes the binoculars, looks east, stops breathing. The valley is full of tanks. German tanks. Dozens of them. Panzer IIIs and IVs in neat formations. And behind them, larger silhouettes. Boxy shapes with long guns. Tigers. Mac counts, forces himself to stay calm. 37 tanks, 15 half-tracks, 4 Tigers leading. The 10th Panzer Division, Rommel's best, hitting them where intelligence said nothing would happen. Mac keys the radio, gets static, tries again. Overwatch, this is Reaper 1. Enemy armor in sector, count 37 Panzers including 4 heavy. Request immediate support. Over. Static. Then a voice Mac does not recognize. Young, terrified. Reaper 1, this is Overwatch. We're pulling back. Repeat, General withdrawal. Get out of the valley now. Mac looks at his platoon. 2 other M10s 60 yards to his left. Lieutenant Parker in command. Good officer. Better than Mac. 3 years at West Point. Parker's M10 starts moving, reversing, trying to withdraw to the road. A Tiger's 88mm gun fires. The sound is thunder. The shell hits Parker's M10 dead center. The M10 explodes. Not burns, explodes. Ammunition cooking off. The turret cartwheels through the air, trailing fire. Mac hears himself make a sound that is not quite human. Eddie is praying in Chinese. Doc is frozen, staring. Bull's voice cuts through. Orders, Captain. What are your orders? Mac's training takes over. The artillery math. The geometry of death. Eddie reverse. Bull traverse left. Doc load. We're not engaging. Bull spins in the gunner's seat. What? We cannot fight 4 Tigers. We cannot fight 37 Panzers. We hide. We observe, we report. That is the mission now. But the others are dead or running. We stay useful. Eddie, get us into that wadi, now. Eddie throws the M10 into reverse. The diesel screams. They back into a narrow ravine between 2 rock formations. Natural concealment. Mac has been here 3 times in the last week studying positions, just in case. They sit in the ravine while the sun rises and the 10th Panzer Division rolls past. 50 yards away, then 40, then 30. So close Mac can see the German tank commanders in their cupolas, see their faces, young men, dirty, tired, human. A panther stops 20 yards from the wadi entrance. The commander stands in his hatch, looks right at them. Mac's hand goes to his pistol. Useless. Bull's hand is on the gun controls, also useless. They cannot shoot without revealing position, cannot run without being seen. The Panther commander lights a cigarette, smokes, looks at the sky, gets back in his tank, drives away. They sit in the wadi for 6 hours. Mac counts vehicles. Bull takes notes. Eddie keeps the engine idling quiet. Doc does not move. They watch the 10th Panzer Division roll west toward the Allied rear areas, toward supply dumps, toward hospitals, toward headquarters that have no idea what is coming. Mac radio's position reports every 30 minutes. Most do not get through. Twice he gets acknowledgement. Keep reporting. Keep counting. Do not engage. At noon, the valley is quiet. The panzers are gone. Mac orders Eddie forward. They emerge from the wadi. The valley floor is littered with burning vehicles. M4 Shermans, M3 half-tracks, trucks, jeeps, bodies, so many bodies. They find the 168th Infantry position. Overrun. The colonel who told Mac to keep his opinions to himself is dead in his foxhole. The radio is destroyed. They find the second M10 from Mac's platoon. Lieutenant Parker's. What is left of it? The crew burned inside. Mac orders Doc to retrieve the dog tags. Doc climbs onto the wreck. Comes back crying. Hands Mac 5 sets of tags. 5 men reduced to metal stamps. Bull stands next to Mac. Neither man speaks. Finally, Bull breaks the silence. We could have helped them. Mac shakes his head. We would have died with them. Not instead of them. Bull's jaw works. He wants to argue, finds no words, walks away. They drive west, away from the panzers, toward what is left of the Allied lines. The road is clogged with retreating soldiers. Some walking, some running. Nobody organized, nobody in command. They pass a knocked-out Sherman, Captain Victor Shaw's tank. Mac recognizes the markings. The Sherman's front armor is penetrated, burned out, black. Eddie slows down. Mac is about to tell him to keep going when he sees movement. Someone climbing out of the ditch. Captain Shaw. Uniform burned, face black with soot. Right arm wrapped in a bloody bandage. He sees Mac's M10, staggers into the road. Hartwell, stop! Eddie stops. Mac climbs out, walks to Shaw. Up close, Shaw looks worse. 2nd-degree burns on his neck. His right hand is missing 2 fingers. Shaw grabs Mac's jacket with his good hand. You ran, you coward! We stood and fought and you ran. Mac pulls Shaw's hand off. I observed, reported, survived. That is Tank Destroyer Doctrine, Captain. Shaw spits, blood in his saliva. Doctrine. My crew is dead, Hartwell. 6 men, burned alive. We could have used your 3-inch gun, but you hid like a coward. Mac looks at Shaw's Sherman, looks at Shaw, feels something cold settle in his chest. You stood and died, Captain. I ran and lived. Which matters more? Shaw staggers back. His eyes are wild. Ask my men. Oh, wait, they're dead. A medic jeep pulls up. 2 corpsmen load Shaw. The jeep drives away. Mac stands in the road. Bull appears at his shoulder. He's wrong, Captain. You saved us. Mac turns, looks at Bull, at Eddie watching from the driver's seat, at Doc staring at nothing. Did I, or did I just fail slower? The 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion withdraws 50 miles. Kasserine Pass is a disaster. The Americans lose 183 men killed, 200 vehicles destroyed. The 703rd loses 47% of its vehicles in 3 days. Mac's platoon returns intact. 3 men, 1 M10, 0 kills. He writes the after-action report in a tent that still smells like the desert. His hand shakes. At 0430 on February 14, enemy armor attacked in force. 10 Panzer Division. Estimated 37 vehicles, including 4 Tiger heavy tanks. My platoon withdrew to covered position per Doctrine and maintained observation. Enemy advanced west. Allied forces conducted fighting withdrawal. Platoon maintained contact and reported positions for 6 hours. No friendly casualties. No enemy casualties. Recommend better intelligence in future. He does not mention Parker dying in front of him. Does not mention Shaw calling him a coward. Does not mention hiding in that wadi while his own side was being destroyed. A week later, he is called to a tribunal. General Lloyd Fredendall, the commander who placed forces in the valley against all advice, is looking for scapegoats. Mac stands before 3 officers who want someone to blame. Lieutenant Hartwell, you received orders to engage enemy armor. Instead, you withdrew. Explain. Captain Hartwell, sir. I was promoted, and I followed Tank Destroyer Doctrine. Observe, report, engage only when advantage permits. We had no advantage. General Fredendahl leans forward. You had a 3-inch gun and 3 tanks, Lieutenant. You could have helped, Captain. And sir, with respect, we had 3 tank destroyers against 37 panzers, including Tigers. We would have died in the first 30 seconds. Instead, we provided position reports that let other units prepare. That is our job. You hid Hartwell. I survived, sir. To fight another day, there is a difference. The tribunal confers. Mac waits, expects court-martial, expects to be broken back to lieutenant, sent home in disgrace. Instead, Lieutenant Colonel Bruce stands. Captain Hartwell did exactly what we trained him to do. The fault was not his. The fault was ours. We spread tank destroyer battalions across the front in packets. We ignored our own doctrine. Hartwell followed it. He and his crew are the only TD platoon that came back intact from Kasserine. I recommend commendation, not punishment. The tribunal agrees. Mac is not court-martialed. Instead, he is promoted, given a full company. 12 M10s, 50 men. He is 25 years old and in command of more firepower than most colonels. That night, he visits Shaw in the field hospital. Shaw is in a cot, arm in a cast, face bandaged. He sees Mac and turns away. Mac pulls up a chair. Neither man speaks for a long time. Finally, Shaw breaks the silence. His voice is hoarse. You were right, Hartwell. We should have pulled back. Mac nods. You were right, too. I should have helped. Shaw looks at him. But you would have died. Yes, but you would not have been alone. Shaw closes his eyes. Get out of here, Hartwell. Let me hate you in peace. Mac stands, walks to the tent entrance, stops. I am sorry, Shaw, for what that is worth. Shaw does not answer. Mac leaves. Outside, Bull is waiting. They walk through the camp without speaking. Finally, Bull breaks the silence. You did the right thing, Captain. Mac stops, looks at the night sky, stars like ice chips. Did I, Bull? Because it feels wrong. It feels like I saved myself and let them die. You saved us. Your crew, that is your job. Mac shakes his head. No, my job is to kill tanks. I have not killed a single one. I am a tank destroyer who destroys nothing. Bull puts a hand on Mac's shoulder. Then let us go kill some tanks, Captain. Mac looks at Bull, at this man who has followed him through hell, who trusts him, who believes in him. All right, Sergeant, let us go kill some tanks. They walk back to their tent. The M10 sits in the motor pool waiting. The doctrine has failed. The training was insufficient. The equipment is barely adequate. But they are alive. And in war, Mac is learning survival is the only kind of winning that truly matters. Tomorrow, they will try again. Tomorrow, they will hunt panzers in the desert. Tomorrow, they will finally become what they were trained to be. Tank destroyers, the stars wheel overhead. The desert wind blows cold. The war continues. End of Part 1. Screen text. March 1943. The M10 Wolverine entered full production. 703 Tank Destroyer Battalion re-equipped and deployed to Sicily. Captain Marcus Hartwell would command Company A through Sicily, Italy, Normandy, and the Battle of the Bulge. He would survive the war. Not all of his crew would. This is their story. Based on the untold story of the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, recap. Captain Marcus Hartwell learned at Kasserine Pass that survival is not cowardice. That doctrine written in safety means nothing under fire. That bringing your crew home alive is victory enough. Now in March 1943, the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, it has new vehicles. M10 Wolverines with real armor and turrets that rotate. Mac has a new mission. Sicily. And somewhere in the German ranks, a panzer commander named Hauptmann Werner Richter, the butcher of Kasserine, is waiting. The hunt begins. Act 2, Part A, Sicily and the Phantom. July 1943. Operation Husky. The invasion of Sicily. Mac stands on the deck of a Liberty ship in the Mediterranean. Around him, 3,000 vessels carrying 160,000 men toward Italian soil. The largest amphibious invasion in history up to this point. The sea is calm, the sky is blue, everything looks peaceful until you see the fighters circling overhead and remember they are there to kill the planes trying to kill you. Bull leans on the rail next to Mac. His arm has healed from the shrapnel at Kasserine, but the scar remains. He strikes a match with hands that no longer shake. 3 months of combat has burned the fear out and replaced it with something harder. You think Richter is waiting for us? Mack has thought about nothing else for 4 months. Hauptmann Werner Richter, commander of the Tiger platoon that destroyed Captain Shaw's company. The butcher of Kasserine. Intelligence says his unit was transferred to Sicily in May. Says he is part of the Hermann Goering Panzer Division defending the Gala beaches. Mack has memorized everything in Richter's file. 34 years old. Panzer commander since Poland. 43 confirmed kills. Recipient of the Iron Cross First Class. Known for aggressive tactics. Known for never retreating. Known for believing Americans are cowards who will break under pressure. If he is there, we will find him. Bull exhales smoke. And if we find him, then I will kill him. Bull studies Mack. Something has changed in their captain since Kasserine. The mathematical artillery officer is gone. In his place is something colder. Something that calculates in terms of revenge rather than trajectories. Doc joins them at the rail. He carries a letter from Mary. She had the baby. A boy. Named him James after Doc's brother who died at Pearl Harbor. Doc's hands shake when he holds the photograph. A tiny face, eyes closed. Alive. I have to get home, Mac. I have to meet my son. You will, Doc. I promise. Doc looks at him, wants to believe. Struggles to find the faith. Don't make promises you cannot keep, Captain. The landing comes at dawn on July 10th. Mac's company, now 12 M10 Wolverines, goes in on the second wave. The beaches at Gela are already secured by the 1st Infantry Division, but sporadic artillery fire still falls. The M10s roll off the landing craft into 3 feet of water. Eddie guns the engine. The diesel roars. They surge up the beach past burning vehicles and dead men and medics working under fire. By noon, they are 2 miles inland. The town of Gala sits on a hill. Mac's company is positioned on the southern approach, covering the road from Nisgami. Intelligence says German armor is moving north from the interior. Says to expect light resistance. Says the Italian defenders are surrendering en masse. Intelligence is wrong. At 1400 hours, the horizon erupts with dust. Mac glasses the movement, counts vehicles, stops counting at 20, panzers, Panzer IIIs and IVs, and behind them, larger shapes. Tigers. Bull is already on the gun. Eddie has the engine hot. Doc has 4 rounds stacked and ready. Mac keys the radio. All Reaper elements. This is Reaper 6. Enemy armor approaching from northeast. Count 20+ vehicles, including heavies. Spread out and prepare to engage. Fire on my command. Out. The M10s fan out into hull-down positions. They have learned from Kasserine. No tight formations, no predictable placements. Spread out. Concealment. Overlapping fields of fire. Make the enemy choose which target to engage and die while choosing. The German column approaches. 1,500 yards. 1,200. 1,000. Mac watches through his binoculars. The lead Tiger has a number painted on its turret. 231. And standing in the commander's cupola, scanning with his own binoculars, is a man with a scar on his left cheek. Richter. Mac's vision narrows, his breathing slows. Every calculation, every tactical consideration, every lesson learned at Kasserine evaporates. All that remains is the need to kill the man who killed Shaw's crew, who killed Parker, who represents everything Mac hates about this war. Bull's voice cuts through. Captain, orders? Mac forces himself to think tactically. The Tigers are in front, frontal armor too thick for the 3-inch gun at this range. But they are leading, exposed. If Mac's company destroys the Tigers, the Panzer IIIs and IVs behind them will be trapped on the narrow road. Hold fire. Let them close to 800 yards. Reapers 2 and 3, you take the left flank when they pass. Reaper 1, we take Richter. Aim for tracks and turret ring. Immobilize first, kill second. The Tigers advance. 800 yards, 700, 600. They are moving fast, buttoned up, confident. American tank destroyers have not hurt them yet. Why should Sicily be different? At 600 yards, Mac gives the order. All Reapers, engage. 12 M10s fire together. The sound is like the end of the world. 40 tons of American steel hurling 3-inch tungsten penetrator at German armor. The air fills with smoke and dust, and the scream of shells crossing space faster than sound. Richter's Tiger takes 3 hits simultaneously. 1 round bounces off the frontal armor. 1 penetrates the track, immobilizing the vehicle. 1 enters the turret ring gap, the weak point where turret meets hull, and detonates inside. The Tiger stops, Smoke pours from the hatches. The crew bails out. Mac sees Richter jump clear, uniform smoking. He draws his pistol, 45 caliber, useless at 600 yards. Bull! Already on it, Captain. Bull traverses the gun, but Richter and his crew are running. German infantry appears from nowhere, laying suppressive fire. Smoke grenades pop. When the smoke clears, Richter is gone, disappeared into the chaos of battle. Mac pounds the turret with his fist. God damn it, I had him! Behind Richter's burning Tiger, the battle continues. 4 more Tigers are hit. 1 destroyed, 3 immobilized. The Panzer IIIs and IVs behind them try to reverse, clog the road, create a traffic jam of steel that makes them perfect targets. Mac's company fires until the barrels are hot and the ammunition is low. When the smoke clears 20 minutes later, 11 German tanks burn on the road to Gela. Mac's company has lost 1 M10 to a Tiger's 88 before it died. Lieutenant Morrison, no relation to Bull, and his crew are dead, but the counterattack is broken. The infantry cheers. Naval gunfire from offshore destroyers finishes off the German retreat. The battle for Gela is won. Sicily will fall in 5 weeks. But Mac does not celebrate. Bull climbs out of the turret, covered in soot and propellant residue. We got him, Captain. His tank is dead. His tank. Not him. He walked away, Bull. Again. Bull offers Mac a cigarette. Mac takes it. War ain't personal, Captain. You kill the tank, you win. Killing the man inside, that is just hate. Mac smokes without speaking. Bull is right. Mac knows Bull is right. But knowing and feeling are different countries. That night, Mac writes in his journal. He has started keeping one like Doc. Recording the battles, the kills, the deaths, trying to make sense of numbers that do not add up to meaning. July 10th, Gela counterattack. 11 enemy tanks destroyed, 1 friendly loss. Lieutenant Morrison and crew KIA. Richter escaped, again. Why does it matter? His Tiger is dead. His crew scattered. The tactical victory is complete. So why does it feel like I failed? Doc reads over his shoulder. Because you wanted revenge, not victory. And revenge is never satisfied, Mac. It just wants more. Mac closes the journal. I want him dead, Doc. I want to look him in the eye and know he cannot kill anyone else. Doc sits on the M10 fender. And if you get that, if you kill him face to face, will that bring back Shaw's men? Will that bring back Parker? Will it change Kasserine? No. Then what is the point? The point is the need, Mac realizes. The need to impose order on chaos. To make the enemy pay. To prove that hiding at Kasserine was tactics, not cowardice. To prove something to himself that he cannot name. They spend August chasing the German retreat across Sicily. Brief engagements. Roadside ambushes. More kills added to the tally. By the time Patton reaches Messina at the end of the month, Mac's company has destroyed 32 German vehicles. The crew has gelled into something efficient and lethal. Eddie can thread the M10 through streets so narrow Bull says he must be able to see through walls. Bull can hit targets at ranges that should be impossible. Doc loads so fast they sustain 6 rounds per minute in combat. And Mac has become something else. The reluctant artillery officer is gone. In his place is a tank destroyer commander who hunts with cold precision. The crew notices. Bull mentions it one night. You are different, Captain. Since Kasserine, since Richter, you used to calculate. Now you just kill. Mac cleans his pistol, 45 caliber, that has never fired a shot in combat, but he maintains it religiously anyway. Calculating got Parker killed. Got Shaw burned. Killing keeps us alive. I will take alive. But at what cost? Bull does not press. But the question hangs in the air between them. At what cost survival? At what point does the hunter become the thing he hunts? Act 2, Part B. Anzio and the Siege. January 1944. Anzio, Italy. Operation Shingle. The plan is simple. Land behind German lines, cut their supply routes, force them to retreat from the Gustav Line, link up with Fifth Army pushing north from Naples, be in Rome by spring. The execution is anything but simple. Mac's company lands on January 22nd with the first wave. The beaches are virtually unopposed. By nightfall, 36,000 men are ashore. They could push inland, could cut Highway 7, could trap the German 10th Army. Instead, General Lucas hesitates, decides to consolidate the beachhead, dig in, wait for more supplies. The decision will cost thousands of lives. By January 24th, the Germans have moved 6 divisions into a ring around Anzio. The beachhead is 7 miles deep by 15 miles wide. 36,000 Allied soldiers trapped in a killing box. The siege begins. Mac's company digs in on the northern perimeter facing the town of Campoleone. They prepare firing positions, camouflage the M10s, string communication wire, lay mines, everything by the book, everything according to doctrine, everything useless against what is coming. Intelligence briefs them on January 27th. The Germans are bringing up heavy armor. Tiger Battalion, Schwere Panzerabteilung 508, 2nd Company Commander, Hauptmann Werner Richter. Mac feels his chest tighten. Bull looks at Ian across the briefing tent. Captain? Mac realizes everyone is staring. He has been silent for 30 seconds. He forces himself to speak. Good, let him come. We know this ground. We have prepared positions. He wants to fight on our terms for once. But Mac's hands shake when he dismisses the briefing. Doc notices, pulls him aside. Mac, you cannot let this become personal. Richter is just another panzer commander. His tank burns like any other. Doc is married now, has a son named James who is 6 months old. Mary sends letters with photographs. Doc keeps them in a waterproof pouch next to his heart. He talks about going home, about medical school, about never touching a gun again. I know, Doc, I know. But Mac doesn't. Richter has become something more than an enemy. He has become the symbol of everything Mac fears. Fear that Kasserine was cowardice. Fear that he saves himself while others die. Fear that he is not good enough, not brave enough, not worthy of the men who follow him. Killing Richter will not fix any of that, but Mac cannot stop believing it will. The German offensive comes on February 16th, not probing attacks, not limited objectives. Total assault, 8 Tiger tanks, 20 Panthers, Panzer Grenadiers and half-tracks, artillery preparation that lasts 2 hours and turns the northern beachhead into a moonscape. Mac's company is positioned in a ruined farm complex 300 yards behind the front line. The infantry platoon forward of them is overrun in the first 30 minutes. German armor punches through. Mac's M10s are suddenly on the front line with nowhere to retreat. The first Tiger appears at 800 yards. Bull fires. Hit. The round bounces off the frontal armor, and the Tiger keeps coming. 700 yards. 600. Bull fires again. Another bounce. The Tiger's 88 returns fire. The shell passes 3 feet over Mac's head with a sound like canvas tearing. Impact behind them. Explosion. Shrapnel rattles off their armor. We cannot hurt him head on. Eddie, reverse us behind that wall. We will try for a flank shot. Eddie throws the M10 into reverse. They back behind a stone wall that offers concealment but no cover. Any 88 shell will go through stone like paper. Bull traverses right, hunting for the Tiger's side. The Tiger commander is smart. He angles his armor, presenting the heaviest protection to Mac's gun. Textbook German tactics. Mac sees the commander standing in his cupola, scanning with binoculars. The scar on his left cheek is visible even at 600 yards. Richter, that is him, Captain. I know, Bull, I know. Doc, load everything we have. We are not letting him leave. For 20 minutes, they duel. Mac's M10 shoots and scoots, using the rubble for concealment. Bull gets 3 more hits on the Tiger's frontal armor. All bounce or shatter. The Tiger returns fire methodically, trying to flush them out. 1 round hits the wall they are hiding behind. The concussion is so violent, Eddie's nose starts bleeding. Then Richter makes a mistake. He advances to flush them out and exposes his flank to Mac's secondary M10, Lieutenant Baker's vehicle, 200 yards to the left. Baker's gunner puts 2 rounds into the Tiger's side armor at 400 yards. Both penetrate. Richter's Tiger stops. Smoke. Then fire. The crew bails out. Mac sees Richter clearly, uniform burning. 2 crew members helping a third who is not moving. They run for German lines. Mac grabs his .45, starts to climb out of the turret. Bull catches his arm. Captain, what are you doing? Finishing this. You will get killed. Then I will get killed. Mac tears free, climbs out, jumps off the M10. Bull is behind him instantly, rifle in hand, providing what cover he can. Eddie swings the .50 caliber to suppress German positions. Doc stands in the turret watching their captain run towards certain death. Mac sprints 50 yards across open ground before reality catches up. German machine gun fire kicks up dirt around his feet. A mortar round lands 30 yards away. The concussion knocks him sideways. He stumbles, falls, gets up. Bull's voice behind him, roaring. "Captain down!" Eddie guns the M10 forward, turret traversing, 50 caliber hammering. The vehicle stops between Mac and the German fire. Bull jumps down, grabs Mac's jacket, physically hauls him behind the M10's armor. "Are you insane?" "Probably." "You almost died for nothing." "Not nothing. I had him, Bull. I almost had him." Bull slaps Mac across the face. Hard. Mac's vision swims. When it clears, Bull is 6 inches from his face. "You almost left us without a commander. You almost died chasing a ghost." "That is not tactics, Captain. That is suicide." They shelter behind the M10 while Eddie reverses towards safety. Mac's ears are ringing. His hands are shaking. He realizes Bull is right. He nearly got himself killed for revenge. Nearly abandoned his crew. Nearly proved that he is exactly the coward Captain Shaw called him at Kasserine. Doc climbs down, sits next to Mac, says nothing for a long time, finally speaks. "He is in your head, Mac. Richter, he is not a panzer commander anymore. He is your demon, and demons are not killed with guns." "How then?" "By letting go." Mac looks at the burning Tiger, at Richter's escape route, at the battlefield where 18 German tanks burn and 4 American M10s are destroyed and 70 men are dead, and Richter walked away. "I cannot let go, Doc. Not until it is finished. Then it will never be finished. Revenge has no end, only more revenge." The siege of Anzio lasts until May. 4 months of artillery, counterattacks, desperate defenses. Mac's company is ground down to 8 operational M10s. They claim 43 enemy vehicle kills. They lose 57 men dead or wounded. Eddie takes shrapnel to his left leg in March. Doc uses his pre-med training to suture the wound in the field. Eddie refuses evacuation, though his limp will never fully heal. In April, they shoot down a German spotter plane with massed 50 caliber fire. A Fiesler Storch that crashes into the beachhead perimeter. The pilot survives. Mac's company takes him prisoner. Young kid, 20 years old, terrified. While they wait for MPs, Mac questions him in broken German learned from captured manuals. Asks about Richter's unit. The pilot knows nothing useful. Mac presses. The pilot starts crying. Doc puts a hand on Mac's shoulder. "Let him be. He is just a kid." "So are we, Doc. We are all just kids." Doc looks at Mac, really looks at him. "No, Mac. We stopped being kids at Kasserine. Now we are just old men waiting to die." They hold Anzio. Barely. When 5th Army finally breaks through in May and links up, the beachhead breakout begins. Mac's company leads the advance on Highway 7. They fight their way into Rome in June. Civilians cheer, throw flowers, kiss the GIs. Mac feels nothing. Just tired. Just empty. Bull finds him alone in the M10 while everyone else celebrates. "We won, Captain. We held. Rome is ours." Mac nods without looking up. "Did we win, Bull, or did we just survive again? Is there a difference?" Mac cannot answer. Act 2, Part C, Normandy and the Hedgerow Hell, June 19, 44. D+13, Normandy, France. Mac's company lands at Utah Beach 11 days after the invasion. The beach is secure, but the front has barely moved. The bocage, the ancient hedgerow country of Normandy, has swallowed the Allied advance. Every field is a fortress. Every hedgerow is 10 feet of earth and roots in centuries of growth. Visibility is 50 yards. Perfect for defense. Hell for attackers. Tank Destroyer Doctrine is useless here. There is no room for maneuver, no ability to flank, no long-range observation. Everything is close, intimate, deadly. Mac's company is attached to the 4th Infantry Division, pushing towards St. Lo. They are not hunting panzers anymore. They are supporting infantry assaults on hedgerows defended by German infantry with Panzerfausts, machine guns, and occasionally a Panther dug in hull deep at a crossroads. The crew feels the change. Eddie, limping from his Anzio wound, struggles with the tight spaces, but his skill adapts. Bull's gunnery expertise is wasted at ranges under 200 yards. Doc loads rounds, but they are more often high explosive for bunkers than armor-piercing for tanks. And Mac is beginning to crack. He sleeps poorly. When he does, he dreams of Richter, of Kasserine, of Shaw burning, of Parker's M10 exploding. He wakes gasping, reaching for his pistol. Bull pretends not to notice. Doc writes in his journal. Eddie sings quietly in Chinese, old songs his grandmother taught him, trying to fill the silence with something human. They are joined by a replacement, when Eddie's leg infection forces him to lighter duty for 2 weeks. Private First Class Tommy Novak, 18 years old, from a farm in Nebraska, has never seen combat, has never seen the ocean before landing at Utah Beach. Terrified of everything, Mac tries to be patient. Novak stalls the engine, grinds the gears, nearly drives them into a ditch twice in the first day. Bull mutters about shooting the kid themselves before the Germans do it. Doc takes pity, spends hours teaching Novak the sounds the engine makes, how to feel the ground through the tracks, how to breathe through the fear. By the end of 2 weeks, Novak is competent. When Eddie returns to duty, now serving as secondary gunner and assistant vehicle commander to give his leg rest, Novak has proven himself capable enough to remain as primary driver. Eddie does not mind. His leg still aches and the driving position aggravates it. He can serve better, helping Bull with gunnery calculations and maintaining situational awareness. By mid-July, Novak is good. He lacks Eddie's instinct, but makes up for it with desperate attention to orders. Whatever Mac says, Novak does instantly. No questions. Total trust. It terrifies Mac. That trust. That assumption that Mac knows what he is doing. The mission comes on July 21st. Intelligence reports a panther dug in near the village of Les Deserts, 3 miles west of St. Lo. The panther has destroyed 11 Shermans in 4 days. Dominates the crossroads. Infantry cannot advance. Armor cannot flank. Air support cannot spot through the trees. Battalion asks for volunteers. Mac raises his hand before he realizes what he is doing. Bull stares at him. Captain, this is suicide. 1 TD against a Duggan Panther? I know the odds, Bull. Then why? Because nobody else will do it. And because we are tank destroyers. This is what we do. Because you are still chasing Richter, even though he ain't here. Mac does not answer. Bull is right again. They approached Le Desert at dawn on July 22nd. 1 M10, 4 men, Mac, Bull, Doc, Novak. Eddie wanted to come, but Mac ordered him to stay back with the company. His leg cannot handle the cross-country movement. Novak drives by listening to Mac's whispered directions. Bull glasses ahead, searching for the Panther. Doc has 15 rounds ready, mixed armor piercing and high explosive, not sure which will be needed. It takes 4 hours to move 2 miles. Every sound is a potential ambush. Every shadow a German infantryman. At one point, they sit motionless for 30 minutes while a German patrol walks past 60 feet away. Bull has his hand on the gun. Mac has his finger on the trigger of the .50 caliber. They let the patrol pass. Opening fire would reveal position. They find the Panther at 1100 hours, not by seeing it, by seeing its reflection. A flash of light off a periscope lens. Bull spots it through his binoculars. The Panther's glacis plate and gun tube barely visible behind a hedgerow, hull down in a perfect firing position commanding the crossroads. Mac studies it. 350 yards, side angle, possible shot if they can get into position without being seen. But the Panther commander is good. He has positioned with overlapping fields of fire to his flanks. Any approach will be spotted. Unless Mac climbs out of the turret, Bull grabs his arm. What are you doing? Reconnaissance. Keep the gun on that Panther. If he moves, kill him. Captain, you cannot. Yes, I can. Stay here. That is an order. Mac drops to the ground, begins to crawl. Forward through the hedgerow, through mud and cattle dung, and the rotted remains of a cow that has been dead for weeks. 50 yards, 75, 100. He can hear the Panther's engine idling, hear the crew talking in German. He crawls to within 70 yards, finds a position behind a stone wall, uses his binoculars, sees the Panther clearly now, sees the weak points. Turret ring, engine deck, lower hull, sees the tactical problem. If Bull fires from their current position, the round will have to penetrate 2 hedgerows and the Panther's angled armor. Low probability of kill. But if they move the M10 to the farm building 200 yards west, they will have a clear angle to the Panther's side. 350-yard shot. Difficult but possible. Bull has made harder shots. Mac crawls back. Takes an hour. Arrives covered in mud, exhausted, shaking. Bull pulls him into the turret. Well, I found a firing position, but we need to relocate, and we will only get 1 shot. If we miss, he will return fire and we are dead. Then we don't miss. They reposition. Novak inches the M10 forward. No sudden movements. Engine at idle. It takes 30 minutes to move 200 yards. They reach the farm building. Mac positions them in the doorway, hull concealed, only the gun visible. Bull traverses onto target. The Panther is in profile, 350 yards. Mac can see the German commander in his cupola, scanning with binoculars. Young, maybe 25, doing his job, defending his country, about to die. Bull's finger hovers over the trigger. Fire mission ready, Captain. On your command. Mac opens his mouth to give the order. Hesitates. This is not Richter. This is not the Tiger commander from Kasserine. This is just another German soldier. Killing him changes nothing. Proves nothing. Just adds one more ghost to Mac's collection. But if Mac does not give the order, the Panther will kill more Shermans tomorrow. More men will burn, more mothers will get telegrams. The math is simple. One German death versus dozens of American deaths. Mac gives the order. Fire. Bull fires. The 3-inch gun roars. The shell crosses 350 yards in less than a second, hits the Panther's turret ring, penetrates, detonates inside. The Panther does not burn immediately. There is a moment, 2 seconds, 3. Then fire erupts from the hatches. Black smoke. The crew bails out. 4 men, the commander, the gunner, the loader, the driver. They run from the flames. The commander is on fire, his uniform burning. He screams, a sound Mac will hear for the rest of his life. The loader tries to help him, rolling him in the dirt. The flames do not stop. Doc stands in the M10, frozen, watching. His medical training overrides everything else. He grabs his medic bag, starts to climb out. Mac grabs him. Doc, no. He is burning Mac. He is the enemy. He is a human being. Doc tears free, jumps from the M10, runs toward the burning German commander. 20 yards. 30. Bull is shouting. Mac is shouting. Novak is staring in disbelief. The shot comes from a hedgerow to the right, a German sniper covering the Panther. The bullet takes Doc in the chest. He stumbles, takes 3 more steps, falls. Novak screams Doc's name, starts to climb out. Bull grabs him, holds him back. Mac keys the .50 caliber, rakes the hedgerow where the sniper fired. 200 rounds, the trees shred, smoke, silence. Bull jumps from the M10, runs to Doc, drags him back under fire. Mac provides covering fire until his ammunition belt runs dry. They get Doc into the turret. He is still alive. Barely. The bullet penetrated his right chest, lung. Blood bubbles from his mouth when he tries to breathe. Mac applies pressure to the wound. Doc's eyes find his. Mac, tell Mary. Tell her I thought about her every day. You will tell her yourself, Doc. You are going home. You are meeting James. You promised. Doc smiles, blood on his teeth. Don't lie to me, sir. I am pre-med, remember? Doc's hand finds Mac's, squeezes. His breathing becomes irregular. Wet. Slow. Did we get the Panther? Yeah, Doc, we got it. Good, that is good. Worth it then. Doc's hand relaxes. His eyes stay open, but Mac knows. Has seen death enough times now to recognize the stillness. The absence. The moment when a person becomes a body. Mac closes Doc's eyes. Bull is standing in the turret hatch, silent tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. Novak is sitting in the driver's seat, head in his hands, sobbing. Mac feels something inside him crack. Not break. Crack. A fissure in the foundation that will never heal. He climbs out of the turret, walks to the burning Panther. The German crew has run away. The commander's body lies in the dirt, burned beyond recognition. Mac stands over it, draws his pistol, points it at the corpse. Bull's voice behind him. He is already dead, Captain. Mac fires anyway. 6 rounds into the burned body. The pistol clicks empty. He fires twice more on an empty chamber. Click, click. Bull takes the pistol from his hand. Mac turns, looks at Bull, at Novak. Burn it. The Panther, the barn, everything. Burn it all. Captain. That is an order, Sergeant! They burn it. High explosive rounds into the barn. .50 caliber tracers into the hedgerow where the sniper hid. The Panther already burning. Everything burns. The whole area becomes an inferno. Mac watches until there is nothing left but ash. They carry Doc's body back to battalion. Mac writes the letter to Mary. Every word is a lie. He died it instantly. He did not suffer. He was thinking of you. All lies, but kind lies, the kind lies you tell to people who need them. That night, the battalion chaplain visits Mac. Tries to talk about Doc, about loss, about faith. Mac stares at his hands without speaking. Hands that held Doc while he died. Hands that fired 6 bullets into a corpse. Hands that killed a kid doing his job. The chaplain leaves. Bull sits next to Mac. Talk to me, Captain. Nothing to say. Doc is dead because you volunteered for that mission. Because you still want to prove something to Richter, to Shaw, to yourself. Mac looks at Bull. You are right. I know I am right. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Mac has no answer. Bull stands, pats Mac on the shoulder. Figure it out, Captain. Because we need you. The real you. Not this ghost-hunting maniac you have become. Bull walks away. The crack inside Mac widens. Epilogue to Part 2. August through November 1944. The breakout from Normandy. The race across France. Mac's company fights through 30 battles, destroys 48 enemy vehicles, loses 3 M10s, 21 men dead or wounded. Mac leads them competently, professionally, by the book. But something is gone. The fire, the need. He no longer volunteers for suicide missions, no longer chases ghosts. He calculates, issues orders, brings his men home. Bull notices. So does Eddie, back to full duty by September. So does Novak, who has become a skilled driver and a trusted crew member. They do not mention it, do not acknowledge the change, but they know. Mac Hartwell died something in that farm in Normandy. The man who returned is someone else, someone harder, someone colder, someone who will do what needs doing but no longer cares why. In November, they receive orders. Hold position in the Ardennes, quiet sector. Rest and refit. Nothing ever happens in the Ardennes in winter. The Germans are defeated. The war is almost over. Mac reads the orders, looks at the map. The Ardennes forest. Belgium, narrow roads, heavy woods, perfect terrain for a desperate counterattack by a desperate enemy. He says nothing. There is nothing to say. If it comes, they will be ready. And if they are not ready, they will die ready. Either way, the outcome is the same. The question is how many more will die before the war finally ends? He no longer knows if he cares about the answer. Captain Marcus Hartwell has learned that revenge consumes everything it touches. That doctrine means nothing against reality. That survival comes at a cost measured in ghosts. Doc Walsh is dead. Bull Morrison is wounded. Eddie Chen is scarred. And Mac himself is hollow, a shell of the man who left Pittsburgh 3 years ago. Now December 1944. The Ardennes forest. Hitler's final gamble. And Mac will face the last test. Not of doctrine, not of tactics, but of whether a broken man can still save the men who follow him. This is how the war ends, not with victory, with survival. Act 3, Part A, The Bulge begins. December 16, 1944. 0530 hours. Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Mac wakes to the sound of artillery, not the sporadic, harassing fire that has become background noise. This is different, systematic, heavy, the kind of bombardment that precedes an attack. He rolls out of his sleeping bag inside the M36 Jackson. The new Tank Destroyer, upgraded from the M10, 90mm gun. Better armor, still open-topped, still a coffin, just a more expensive one. Bull is already awake, infection clear from his arm now, but the scar tissue makes movement stiff. Eddie sits in the driver's seat, scarred face impassive, listening to the barrage. And there is Rita Kozlowski, the new loader who joined them in November. 26 years old, enlisted under the name Robert. Mac knows, has known since the first day, does not care. Rita can load 90mm rounds faster than any man in the battalion. That is all that matters. The radio crackles, static, then panic. All stations, this is Overwatch. Enemy breakthrough at Losheim Gap. Multiple panzer divisions. Tiger tanks, Panthers, King Tigers. 6th SS Panzer Army. Request immediate. The transmission dies. Explosions bloom orange against the black sky 2 miles east. Mac climbs into the commander's position. Keys the radio. All Reaper elements, this is Reaper 6. Mount up. Start engines, we are moving north. Now. Bull checks the 90mm gun. Eddie starts the diesel, the engine roaring to life in the frozen morning. Rita loads an armor-piercing round without being told. Mac looks at his crew. These people who have followed him through hell. Who have watched him break and kept following anyway. Which way, Captain? Mac looks at the explosions. At the map, at the narrow roads leading north through the Ardennes to the twin villages of Krinkelt and Rocherath, where the 2nd Infantry Division is about to be overrun. We go forward, like we always do. The M36 lurches north. Behind them, 11 more tank destroyers follow, all that remains of Mack's company. 12 vehicles, 48 men, against the largest German offensive since Normandy. They drive through chaos, roads clogged with retreating soldiers, trucks burning, wounded lying in ditches. Nobody knows what is happening. Nobody knows where the Germans are. Nobody knows if there even is a front line anymore. Mack's column pushes against the tide, north toward the sound of the guns. They reach Krinkelt at midnight. The twin villages are already under attack. German armor probing from the east. Infantry dug in, desperate, running low on ammunition. A colonel from 2nd Infantry Division meets Mack at a crossroads. His face is black with soot. His hands shake. Thank God. Tank destroyers. We need you at the eastern crossroads. Germans have Tigers, maybe Panthers. We cannot see in the dark. We cannot hold without anti-tank support. Mack deploys his company. 3 M36s at the main crossroads. 3 more covering the northern approach. The rest in reserve, hidden in building rubble, ready to respond wherever the breakthrough comes. It is the doctrine they were taught at Camp Hood 4 years ago. Concentrated force, mobile reserve, respond to enemy penetration. For once, the doctrine might actually work. Dawn comes at 0700. With it, the assault. Mack sees them through his binoculars. 12 Panthers, 3 Tigers, 6 King Tigers with their long 88mm guns that can kill anything the Americans have from 2,000 yards. Behind them, half-tracks full of SS Panzer Grenadiers. And behind them, more. Always more. Bull whistles, King Tigers. Never seen those before. That frontal armor, our 90mm will not touch it. Then we do not shoot the front. Rita, load Sabo. We are going for tracks and turret rings. The German column advances. 1,500 yards, 1,200, 1,000. Mack holds fire. Let them commit. Let them expose themselves. Wait for the perfect shot. At 800 yards, Mack gives the order. All Reapers, engage. 12 M36 Jacksons fire simultaneously. The 90mm guns roar. The sound is apocalyptic. The air fills with smoke, and the shriek of tungsten penetrators traveling faster than sound. The lead Panther takes 3 hits. Turret jams. Track shattered. Immobilized. The crew bails out. The Panthers behind try to reverse, but the road is narrow and they create a traffic jam of armor. Mack's company fires again. And again, and again. The 90mm gun is everything the 3-inch was not. It penetrates Panther side armor at 1,000 yards. It cracks Tiger frontal armor at 500 yards. It can even hurt a King Tiger if the angle is righted and luck is good. But the Germans keep coming. For every Panzer Mack's company destroys, 2 more appear. The fighting becomes desperate. Close range, urban combat, tank destroyers shooting from building windows. German infantry with Panzerfausts hunting in the rubble. The line between front line and rear area disappears. At 1400 hours, a flight of P-47 Thunderbolts appears. American fighter bombers. Mack's salvation. Except they do not attack the Germans. They attack Mack's company. The first rocket hits Lieutenant Baker's M36. Direct hit. The vehicle explodes. Ammunition cooking off. 6 men dead instantly. The second rocket hits the building Mack is using for cover. The wall collapses. Dust and smoke everywhere. Mack keys the radio, screaming, "Cease fire! Friendly forces! We are American! Cease fire!" But the fighters are already gone, diving on their next target. Bull grabs Mack's shoulder. They thought we were German. The M36 road wheels. They look like Panzer road wheels. I know, Bull. I know. Eddie backs the M36 out of the building. They relocate to a new position. Count their losses. 3 M36s destroyed. Not by German fire, by their own Air Force. Mack sits in the turret, numb. This is beyond Kasserine, beyond Anzio, beyond Normandy. This is the war distilled to its purest form. Violence without reason, death without meaning, survival without honor. Rita touches his arm, speaks for the first time in hours. "Captain, orders?" Mack looks at Rita. At this woman disguised as a man, loading shells, fighting, bleeding, invisible to everyone but him. He thinks about Doc, who died trying to save an enemy, about Shaw, who called him a coward, about his father, who died before teaching him how to survive this. We hold. We hold until they break through or we die. Those are the only options. Rita nods, loads another round. The fighting continues. Act 3, Part B, 3 Days in Hell. December 17th through 20th, the Siege of Krinkelt in Rauchereth. For 3 days, Mac's company holds the crossroads. The Germans attack 6 times. Each time they are thrown back. Each time they come back stronger. King Tigers replace Panthers. Panthers replace Panzer IVs. The SS brings up fresh troops. The Americans have no reinforcements. Mac's company is ground down. 12 M36s become 9. 9 become 6. 6 become 4. The crews are exhausted. Eddie has not slept in 48 hours. Bull's hands shake on the gun controls. Rita loads shells mechanically, dead-eyed, functioning on muscle memory. And Mac is somewhere beyond exhaustion, beyond fear, beyond caring. He gives orders, positions vehicles, calls fire missions. But some part of him is still in that farm in Normandy, watching Doc die. Some part of him never left Kasserine. On the 19th, the King Tiger arrives. It appears at dawn through the smoke, bigger than any tank Mac has seen. Armor so thick it looks invulnerable. 88mm guns so long it seems to reach across the battlefield. It rolls down the main street, firing methodically, destroying everything in its path. 2 Shermans try to engage. Both die in under a minute, penetrated from 2,000 yards. The infantry falls back. Nothing can stop a King Tiger from the front. Nothing. Bull glasses it from their position in a ruined church. That is Kampfgruppe Piper's spearhead. Tiger 2, we cannot kill that thing head-on, Captain. Then we do not fight head-on. Mac has an idea, desperate, probably suicidal, but the only option left. He radios the remaining M36s, explains the plan, waits for objections. None come. They are too tired to object, too numb to care. Mac orders Eddie to position their M36 in the open, in the middle of the main street, exposed, bait. Eddie does not question, just drives into the open and stops. Rita loads. Bull trains the gun on the King Tiger 600 yards away. They wait. The King Tiger sees them, traverses its gun. Mac can see the German commander in his cupola, probably smiling at the easy kill. The Americans finally making a mistake. The King Tiger fires. The 88mm shell crosses 600 yards in under a second. Eddie sees it coming. Does not move. Cannot move. The shell passes 3 feet to their left and detonates in the building behind them. The shockwave is enormous. Rita is thrown against the turret wall. Blood runs from her nose. The King Tiger adjusts aim. Fires again. This shot is closer. 1 foot to the right. Eddie closes his eyes. Whispers something in Chinese. Prayer or curse, Mac cannot tell. But the King Tiger stops to observe the hit. Stops 100 yards from the alley where the other 3 M36s wait in ambush. Exactly as Mac planned. Mac keys the radio. All Reapers, fire now! 3 M36s fire together. 3 90mm rounds slam into the King Tiger's side armor at ranges under 200 yards. 1 bounces. 1 penetrates the track, immobilizing the monster. 1 enters the turret ring and detonates inside. The King Tiger shudders. Smoke pours from the hatches. The crew bails out, uniforms smoking, 4 men running, panicked, human. Bull traverses onto them. His finger hovers on the trigger. Captain, orders? Mac watches the German crew run. Young men, 20 years old maybe, doing their duty, fighting for their country, just like Mac, just like Bull, just like all of them. Let them go. Bull looks at Mac, really looks at him. You sure? Mac nods, feels something inside him shift. Not heal, but shift. The crack that opened at Normandy fills slightly. Not with anything good, just with acceptance. These men are not his enemies. They are just the people on the other side. Killing them will not bring Doc back, will not erase Kasserine, will not make Mac worthy of his father's memory. I am sure, Bull. Let them go. We already won. They are walking, we are not. The German crew disappears into smoke. The King Tiger sits immobilized in the street, smoking. Mac's company has just done what Doctrine said was impossible. Killed a King Tiger with tactics and terrain and desperation. That night, the Germans withdraw. Not retreating. Repositioning. Krinkelt and Rocheroth are ordered evacuated. The twin villages are no longer defendable. The 2nd Infantry Division pulls back. Mac's company covers the withdrawal. They count their losses. Started with 12 M36s. 4 remain. Started with 48 men. 19 survive. They killed 11 panzers, including the King Tiger. The trade is not favorable, but they held. For 3 days, they held the crossroads. And that matters. Bull sits next to Mac on the hull of their M36, watching the column retreat. We did it, Captain. We held. Did we, Bull? Or did we just survive again while better men died? Bull strikes a match, offers Mac a cigarette. Mac takes it. They smoke without speaking. Finally, Bull breaks the silence. There are no better men, Captain. There are just men who lived and men who did not. You kept us in the first group. That is enough. Is it? It has to be, because that is all we got. Act 3, Part C, The Relief. December 21st through 26th, Bastogne Corridor. Mac's battered company is attached to Patton's 3rd Army spearhead. Mission: break the siege of Bastogne, where the 101st Airborne is surrounded. The weather clears. Air support arrives. The German offensive stalls. But the fighting is not over. German rear guards defend every crossroads, every village, every bridge. Mac's 4 M36s support the armor advance north. On December 23rd, Bull collapses. The infection in his arm has returned. Worse than before. Sepsis. He needs a hospital. Mac orders him evacuated. Bull refuses. I started this with you, Captain. I will finish it with you. Bull, you will die. Then I die. But not in a hospital bed, not away from you. Mac wants to order him out. Knows he should. Cannot make himself do it. Bull has been with him since Camp Hood. 4 years. Through everything. Letting Bull die for pride is criminal. But forcing Bull to live as a coward in his own eyes might be worse. Mac makes the choice. Bull stays. Rita takes over as primary gunner. Bull supervises, teaches, guides. His hands shake too much to fire, but his eye is still perfect. He calls corrections. Rita adjusts. Together, they make shots that should be impossible. On December 26, 4th Armored Division breaks through to Bastogne. The 101st is saved. The German offensive is defeated. The Bulge will take another month to reduce, but the crisis is over. Mac's company rolls into Bastogne with the lead elements. The paratroopers cheer. Throw candy they do not have. Shake hands. Call them heroes. Mac feels nothing, just tired, just empty. Another battle, another survival, another day of being alive while others are dead. That night, Bull finally agrees to evacuation. The medics take one look at him and rush him to the field hospital. Gangrene, blood poisoning. He needs surgery immediately. Mac visits before Bull goes under. Bull grabs Mac's hand. His grip is weak. You kept your promise, Captain. You brought me home. Not all of us, Bull. Doc, Parker, Morrison, Shaw. But you tried. That is all any man can do. Try. And you tried harder than anyone I ever met. Bull is taken away. Rita appears at Mac's side. He will live, Captain. Bull is too stubborn to die. Mac nods, wants to believe, struggles with the faith. Rita speaks again. This time her voice is different, softer, more herself. You know, don't you, about me? Mac looks at her. At this woman who has fought beside him for 2 months, who loads shells faster than any man, who has never complained, never faltered. Yes, I know. Why didn't you say anything? Because it does not matter. You are a good soldier, Rita, better than most. Gender does not change that. They will court-martial me if they find out. Then we make sure they do not find out. Rita smiles, small, sad. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Corporal, for fighting when nobody thought you could, for surviving when everyone said you could not, for being here when we needed you. They stand without speaking. 2 soldiers, 2 survivors, 2 ghosts haunting the wreckage of a war that should have ended months ago. Act 3, Part D, The Last Mile. January through May 1945. The race to Germany. Mac's company is rebuilt. 8 M36s, new crews, replacements who do not know Kasserine or Anzio or Normandy, who do not carry the ghosts. Eddie remains. Rita remains. Tommy Novak remains, now a sergeant, training the new drivers. And Mac remains. Harder, colder, more efficient. He leads them through the Siegfried Line, through the Rhine crossing, through the Ruhr pocket, through Bavaria. They destroy 41 German vehicles between January and April. They lose 2 M36 11 men killed. The trade is favorable now. The Germans are running out of fuel, out of ammunition, out of will. The war is ending. Everyone knows it, but men still die, tanks still burn, the killing continues. On April 28, 1945, Mack's company encounters the last German resistance. An SS unit refusing to surrender, dug in with a Panther tank destroyer. The Germans are outnumbered, outgunned. The situation is hopeless. They fight anyway. Mack's M36 duels the Panther at 1,400 yards. Rita loads. Eddie maneuvers. Mack commands. The 90mm gun fires 14 rounds. The Panther fires 9. They trade shots for 12 minutes. Then Rita makes the kill. 1,400 yards through trees. Hits the Panther's engine deck. The vehicle stops, smoking. The crew bails out. Hands up. White flag. Mack orders cease fire. Eddie drives forward. They take the crew prisoner. 4 SS soldiers. The gunner is 16 years old. 16. Mack stares at him. This child in a uniform. This kid who was probably in middle school when Mack landed at Iran. The boy is crying, terrified, expects to be shot. Mack gives him a cigarette, chocolate from his rations, tells him in broken German to go home. The war is over. Go home to his mother. Eddie watches this, speaks quietly. You have changed, Captain. Have I? Yes. At Normandy, you would have killed him. At Normandy, I was someone else. Who are you now? Mack cannot find words for what he has become. He is not the artillery officer who left Pittsburgh, not the revenge-obsessed hunter who chased Richter, not the broken man who burned a German corpse. He is something else now. Something that has seen too much and survived too long and no longer understands what survival means. I am a man trying to go home, Eddie. That is all. Just trying to go home. On May 7th, 1945, Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. Mack's company is in Munich. They hear the news on the radio. Men cheer, cry, hug, fire their weapons in the air, celebrate. Mack remains alone with his M36. Rita finds him there. We won, Captain. We actually won. Did we? Or did we just survive long enough for them to quit? Is there a difference? Mack thinks about his father, about Jack Hartwell, who died before teaching Mack how to carry this weight, about Doc, who died trying to be human in an inhuman war, about Bull, who survived by being tougher than death itself, about Shaw and Parker and Morrison and all the others who did not make it home. I do not know, Rita. Ask me in 40 years. Epilogue, what remains? June 1945, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mack stands at the gate of the steel mill, his father's mill, still closed, still rusting, still dead. He has been home for 2 weeks, has not left the house except to walk here. His mother remarried, a veteran from the First War, artillery captain, lost a leg at Belleau Wood, good man, kind. He and Mack talk sometimes about the war, about the things they cannot say to people who were not there, about the ghosts. Mack visits Doc Walsh's family on a Thursday. Mary and her son James, now 2 years old. Mack carries Doc's journal and all the letters. He sits at their kitchen table. Mary makes coffee. Her hands shake when she pours. She opens the journal, sees Doc's handwriting, sees the sketches, her face, over and over, every page, her face. She cries for 20 minutes while Mack sits silent. When she can speak again, her voice is small. Did he suffer? Mack looks at her, at this woman who loved Doc, at the boy playing with wooden blocks on the floor. Doc's son, Doc's legacy. No, it was instant. He did not feel anything. The lie comes easily now. He has told it so many times, to Mary, to the chaplain, to himself, the kind lies you tell to people who need them, the kind lies you tell yourself so you can sleep. James looks at Mack with Doc's eyes. Mack stands, has to leave, cannot breathe, walks for 3 hours through Pittsburgh trying to outrun the memory, fails. 2 weeks later, Mack receives a letter. Bull Morrison is alive, out of the hospital. Arm works mostly, getting married to a nurse from the field hospital. Name is Helen. Bull says Mack better come to the wedding or he will drive to Pittsburgh and drag him there. Mack takes the train to West Virginia. The wedding is small. Bull stands at the altar, his arm in a sling, still but smiling. Helen is beautiful, strong. She survived Anzio too. Knows what Bull needs without asking. They exchange vows. Bull cries. So does Mack. At the reception, Bull pulls Mack aside. You doing okay, Captain? Mack shrugs. The question is too big to answer. Bull nods, understanding without words. Write me. Every month. That is an order, because you are going to get through this, and I am going to help you whether you want help or not. Mac promises, means it. Bull squeezes his shoulder, goes back to his bride. Eddie Chen's letters arrive regularly from San Francisco. Business is good. People need cars fixed. Nobody asks about the scars. Nobody wants to know where they came from. Eddie met a girl, Chinese-American, daughter of a grocer. Her name is Lily. Eddie thinks he might marry her. Mac writes back, tells Eddie to marry her, tells him congratulations, tells him to name the first kid after Doc. Eddie writes back 2 months later. They are engaged, wedding in the spring. Will Mac come? Mac says yes, goes to California, stands as best man, cries during the vows. Cannot explain why. Rita Kozlowski disappears. The military discovered her identity in March. Dishonorable discharge pending. Mac testified at her hearing, fought to have it overturned, failed. Rita vanished after the discharge. Mac does not know where. He writes letters to her last known address in Detroit. They come back undeliverable. He hopes she is okay, hopes she found peace, hopes someday the Army will acknowledge what she did. He doubts they will. Tommy Novak accepts an appointment to West Point, wants to be a career officer. Armor branch. Mac writes him a recommendation letter, tries to talk him out of it. Novak thanks him for the letter, ignores the advice, arrives at West Point in July. Some men need to be soldiers. Novak is one of them. Mac understands, wishes he did not. And Mac declined his regular Army commission, declined the Silver Star ceremony, declined everything except the discharge papers. He is done, 27 years old and done with war forever. He stands at his father's mill thinking about Doctrine, about how Tank Destroyer Command created a force to stop the Blitzkrieg, how they trained 50,000 men, how they destroyed 10,000 German vehicles, how they suffered 40% casualties, how they were disbanded in November 46 because tanks could do the job and tank destroyers were redundant. All that death, all that sacrifice, for a doctrine that was flawed from the beginning, for a weapons system that never quite worked the way it was supposed to, for a war that should have ended years earlier. But they held Kasserine long enough for the Army to learn, held Anzio long enough for Rome to fall, held Normandy long enough for the breakout, held the Bulge long enough for Patton to arrive. They held. That is what tank destroyers did. Not win, just hold. Long enough, hard enough, until someone else could win. Is that enough? Mac cannot answer that. We'll probably never find the answer. But it is what they did, and they did it as well as broken doctrine and inadequate equipment and traumatized men could do it. Mac turns away from the mill, walks home. His mother is making dinner. His stepfather is reading the newspaper. It is a normal day, a peacetime day, the kind of day millions of men died to make possible. Mac sits at the table, tries to feel grateful, tries to feel anything. Mostly just feels tired and old. 27 years old and older than his father ever got to be. His mother puts a hand on his shoulder. You will be okay, Marcus. It takes time, but you will be okay. Mac nods, wants to believe her, tries to find the faith. But he will try because that is what you do. You survive. And then you try to figure out how to live with surviving. That is all any of them can do. Try. 40 years later, 1985. Fort Benning, Georgia, Tank Museum. An old man stands in front of an M10 Wolverine, 67 years old, gray hair, lined face, eyes that have seen too much. A young historian approaches. Sir, are you Captain Hartwell? Mac turns, nods. I am. I am writing a book about the Tank Destroyer Force. Would you mind answering some questions? Mac looks at the M10, touches the turret, cold metal under his palm. He can still hear the diesel engine, can still smell the cordite, can still see Bull's face, Doc's smile, Eddie singing, Rita loading, Novak driving, all of them young, all of them alive, all of them gone now in one way or another. The historian waits, pen poised over notebook. One question, sir. Do you think Tank Destroyer Doctrine was successful? Mac is silent for a long time, finally speaks. Successful? The doctrine was probably flawed. We were supposed to maneuver and ambush and vanish. Reality was we slugged it out like everyone else. But here is what the doctrine writers did not understand. It is not the tank that wins. It is the man inside. Bull Morrison taught me that courage is not being fearless. It is being afraid and doing it anyway. Eddie Chen showed me that we are all Americans no matter what we look like. Doc Walsh proved that even in hell you can hold on to who you are. Rita Kozlowski was not supposed to be there, but she was our best soldier, gender be damned. And Tommy Novak? That scared kid became a general. Led armor units after the war. So was Tank Destroyer Doctrine successful? Officially no. We were disbanded November 46. Redundant. Unnecessary. But we killed over 10,000 German vehicles. And most of us came home. In war, coming home alive is not failure. It is the only victory that matters. Mac walks away from the museum. The historian watches him go, scribbles notes, does not understand yet, will not understand for another 40 years when he is old enough to have ghosts of his own. The M10 sits silent in the museum, waiting for someone to remember. Final title cards. Captain Marcus Hartwell never drove a tank again after the war. He worked as a consultant for Army armor development. Married in 1948, had 2 children, died in 1987 at age 69. He kept his silence about the war until the end. Bull Morrison recovered, married Helen, had 4 children, ran a small mining operation in West Virginia, exchanged letters with Mac until Mac's death. Bull died in 1993. At his funeral, his children found a box of medals he never mentioned, including a silver star. Eddie Chen's mechanic shop in San Francisco thrived. He became a community leader in Chinatown, advocated for Chinese-American veterans, married Lily, 3 children, died in 2003. His grandson serves in the Army today. Rita Kozlowski's military records were sealed. She resurfaced in Detroit in 1950 under her real name, Regina. Worked as a machinist, never married, died in 1978. The truth of her service remained classified until 1991. She never received recognition. Tommy Novak became Brigadier General Thomas Novak. Commanded armor units through the 1960s and 70s. Retired in 1976. He visited Mac twice in the 1980s. They did not talk about the war, just sat together. Sometimes that is enough. Novak died in 2007. The 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion destroyed 147 enemy vehicles in 2 years of combat. They suffered 63% vehicle losses and 41% personnel casualties. They were officially disbanded in November 1946. The Tank Destroyer Force consisted of 106,000 men. They destroyed over 10,000 enemy vehicles. They suffered 11,000 killed or wounded. They were officially declared redundant and eliminated. They have been largely forgotten. This story is an attempt to remember, for the men who crewed tank destroyers, for the men who were told their doctrine was perfect and their equipment was adequate and their sacrifice mattered, for the men who knew better but did their duty anyway, for the men who held the line when everyone said it could not be held, for the men who survived and the men who did not. We remember. The end.